We now return to Ominous Prime.
Hey, this is Jason, also known as Ominous Prime here, and today we're going to be looking at WWE 2K22 nWo 4 Life Edition. I don't know why I said it so weird, but hey, here we go. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe for more content. Give it a thumbs up or down. Give me feedback in the comments and share if you think someone would enjoy the video. Alright, for the edition that I purchased, the nWo4 Life Edition, I did get that on the Xbox Series consoles, specifically for mine, which is the Xbox Series X. Currently, at the time of this recording, 25% off for a digital copy of the same version I purchased. It's also 25% off for the Series X/S edition in the Microsoft Store. There's also a cross-gen and deluxe edition for the Series X and S. When I was originally searching, I found it confusing as to why there were so many different versions that were put out by 2K. I'm not a fan of these practices by 2K to avoid smart delivery offered by many other companies that have put their games out on the Xbox Series consoles. If you get the vanilla version, if you get the Series X or S version, it's $69.99. If you get the Xbox One version, it's $59.99. The cross-gen version, if you want to be able to play it on both. That one costs you $79.99, and that one is currently not on sale for that 25% off that I told you about. The deluxe version has the same content as the cross-gen version, but adds the Undertaker Immortal Pack for both gen versions, the WWE 2K22 Supercharger for both gens, and the My Rise Mega Boost for both gens, and the Season Pass for both gens. It costs $99.99. What irks me a little bit about this, the way that they're doing this, is they have like the DLC also divided up for those particular versions of that, the different generations, last generation and current generation. When somebody's going to go and search for DLC packs, there's going to be probably a lot of people that are possibly purchasing the wrong version and may not be able to carry that over. Like in my house, we still have an Xbox One that's set up over in our kids' room now because we got the newer one, so we put that one in theirs. But I don't even know if we would be able to play both of these at the same time because I haven't set it up for my kids to be able to play. The other thing that we have here for the next version up is the one that I purchased, which is the nWo4 Life Edition. Comes with the same stuff as the deluxe version and adds on the nWo4 Life bonus pack for both gens, last and current. That's it. That's what's in that one. What the nWo4 Life bonus pack gives you, it includes My Faction Evo cards and playable versions of Hollywood Hulk Hogan, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Six, most people know that guy as X-Pac, and Eric Bischoff. You also get Sold Out 1997 and Bash at the Beach 1996 arenas and nWo Wolfpack Championship. Now the Supercharger, what that does is it unlocks all the WWE legends at launch. From what I understand, the Supercharger before worked differently. In this one, the My Rise Mega Boost, and what that does is that gives you what they call your My Player. This is going to be your creator wrestler that you would use in the My Rise mode. It gives you 200 additional attribute points to start with. This can make you pretty overpowered just starting out in the game, which I did. I'll get to that later. All right, and the Season Pass, what that gets you is the upcoming DLC. That's to be out all by August of 2022. And it's supposed to be 5 DLC content packs, but states you get the Mega Boost and Supercharger with the Season Pass. What's weird is the content that's listed for the games when you're purchasing it, like for instance the nWo4 Life Edition. It lists the Season Pass separately from the My Rise Mega Boost and the Supercharger, as if all of those are different things. But in the Season Pass description, it says you're going to get 5 DLC content packs, but also says that you get the Mega Boost and the Supercharger in there. So it's unclear to me if that counts as 2 out of the 5, and we're waiting for 3 more DLC packs to come out. Now, if you get the vanilla version, you'll eventually unlock a majority of what comes in the other more expensive versions, like the Deluxe and the nW4 Life Edition. And as I was mentioning, the creation tools for the Creator Wrestler pretty much makes it possible to download from other people that are making these characters, or make your own roster full of those that you feel you need to have in your federation, as it were. All right, now first things first, I put in many hours into this game and still haven't found myself really in a bunch of the other modes as much as of yet. But I did dip my toes in the different modes to have an opinion on them. And second, this game did have a number of bugs when initially released, one of which was having too many created or downloaded materials or items in the game. This seemed to cause some kind of overload, which was causing people to have their game crash on them to the point to where it was not playable. There has been a number of patches that have been released to address these bugs. I didn't experience any of these when I was playing. Third, wrestling games of the modern era are known for some ridiculous physics issues that have comical results, and this game is no different. For me, usually I see twitchy legs on the wrestlers. Like, it seems like they can't seem to get a grip or where their legs should be, so they kind of like get really jittery. And again, I played this one on the Xbox Series X only, and I have to say the load times on this feel like I'm playing it on the Xbox One, and I haven't experienced this since getting the new gen console with any of these games that have been played. And it's weird because they went through this effort to make it so that you had to buy 2 separate versions, you know, one for the Xbox One and one for the Series consoles, to where you couldn't just play one version and then, you know, through smart delivery play it on the next gen. That they would have load time problems here on the newer consoles. It's a bit weird, and it's really annoying. 2K. All right, now enough complaining about that. Gameplay is what actually kept me playing with this version so much. It feels like it took strides to feel like a modernized version of the Nintendo 64 games that I played during the 90s, during the Monday Night Wars. And there's also parts of it that reminds me of SmackDown, Here Comes the Pain. It's kind of like a blend of that, and I really enjoy that about this game. During the Monday Night Wars, it's like the era that got me to want to train and step into the squared circle myself in the early 2000s, which I did. And when I did it, I wrestled under the moniker Omnis Prime, and I keep that name to this day. So that got me to jump right into my rise and put myself into the game. I built my moveset, proceeded to take out the rosters of Raw and SmackDown after I left the Performance Center. The promo work here in the game...
Hey, we have some good news. You're not going to have to deal with us much longer.
Well, maybe if everything works out. What do you mean?
Needs to go back to the armories, backyards, high school gyms, wherever those came from. That's not just for the creator wrestler either, but for the superstars too. The commentary isn't bad, although just like any sports game that has any kind of play-by-play, you'll start hearing the lines get repeated, and it's unavoidable until they design AI that's able to do like predictive commentary. And then My Rise is filled with NPCs to speak with that give you requests to enter different matches. This is how you're going to enter your different feuds for the most part. Sometimes you're speaking with a superstar, but a bunch of times it's talking with the crew or a bunch of different marks that just happen to be around having some kind of fantasy matchup of what they want you to do. But you do get the decision of whether or not you actually want to take on these matches that they're putting in front of you. The other way that you can get into feuds or find matches to do is actually through like social media, which is wrestling's taken like a weird turn with new technology. Because back in the day, it was you cut a promo on somebody, you do it face to face, or you do it in backstage, interview, and you call out, your opponent there. Now it's via text and Twitter, and it's a little weird. It's, like when you're thinking of wrestlers, you're thinking of these tough people that are going after each other because they're going to get in the ring and they're going to smack each other up and, try to get the championship. You don't think of these people doing like Twitter battles, just like any other people, and then deciding that, you know what, I'm tired of fighting on Twitter. I'm going to go here and I'm going to face you in the ring now. It's just really weird. But they have their version of like a Twitter that's on here to where you can go ahead and like call out other wrestlers, and then you have direct messages that where you can get into different matches. Still, wrestling's weird. One thing to keep in mind here with, and this is one thing I ran to, is I saw the creation tools and I was like, ooh, I want to go right there. So I was starting to build a character, and then I thought about it and I was like, you know what, well, let me open up MyRise. Now in MyRise, you have to create your character there. You create a wrestler there. You can't import your created wrestler from outside of that. The reason that this is done is it's to keep you from building a character that's overpowered with attribute points and then moving them into MyRise and then, running roughshod over any of the wrestlers that are in there, because they kind of try to build you up because you're in the performance center facing off with wrestlers that are not as powerful as, like, say, like Undertaker. With that being said, if you have the Mega Boost with the 200 point attribute bonus, that doesn't matter. You get in there, you're going to build a character that's going to be really strong already. Just make sure that you're doing it in MyRise first, so you don't waste your time building it in the creation tools. All right. And play mode. I kind of covered this here just a moment ago. I think of it as a mode that if I'm going to sit down with my kids, this is going to be the mode that we play. It's like an arcade mode. We can pick whatever match, whatever characters we want to use, and just go at it. And it's a lot of fun. The matches are quick. You don't have a lot of load time actually in this particular mode. MyRise, you're stuck with a lot of loading in between screens. But play mode is it's fun, it's fast, and I think a lot of people will probably spend a lot of time there. Showcase reminds me of when I worked briefly as a pro wrestler, with having to hit spots during a match. That way we can get to the finish of the match. And most people may not actually care about the showcase mode, and I find that unfortunate. But because I was in the business, not at the WWE level, mind you, it's very amateur. It's kind of an oxymoron, amateur pro wrestler, but basically an indie. I enjoy revisiting Ray's journey and the matches that were important to him. And on a side note, I did get to train with Eddie Guerrero. Briefly, it was for a day. That's a name drop. And this is back when I was getting smartened up by Steve Kern, which is another name drop. If you don't know who Steve Kern is, I suggest looking him up. If you're into wrestling, you'll see how much he's contributed in all the different characters that he's played. And it wasn't until that day, because I was watching Eddie Guerrero and I was still learning, and I would see him on TV and I was like, who's this guy, the short guy? I can't believe that he's, running through all these other wrestlers. I don't quite understand. I just It's like I would see him and go, oh, I can't stand this guy. I don't get it. It wasn't until that day that I actually got to work with him. He was so humble, and he could see all these different things that would help me become a better wrestler. And he took the time to talk to somebody who was just starting up and help me out. And I learned how to take crazy bumps that day. I had martial arts training already, but nothing really prepares you for taking a military press and being dropped from about 7 feet in the air. It's not something that you learn. Even though you do a lot of martial arts training, that doesn't come up very often. And Eddie, he earned my respect a lot that day, and I enjoyed getting to talk with him. I talked with him about the SmackDown video games that he was in. He was like, I'm in what? I was explaining that on the PlayStation 2 at the time, that they had a game that he was in called SmackDown, and I was like, you can play as, you in there and do all these different moves. And he was like, wow, that's really cool. But then he was like, let me show you what we do in the real world when we're in the ring. And I was like, oh, okay. And that's where he proceeded to show me different things that we could do. And I always have that as like a happy memory of getting to spend that time with him. But I'm going off on a tangent, so let me see if we can get this back on track here. I really appreciate Ray going into the different stories, because we used to call it, the boys would have all these stories on the road and different things that are going on. I like seeing the insight of what Rey Mysterio has when he's talking about the different matches that he's going through and what was going on. Now, it's just the first few matches that you have with Eddie, and then you get into like Shawn Michaels and you get into other wrestlers as you're going down the road, hitting the highlights of what Rey Mysterio went through. But I appreciate this mode, and I like that they have it in here, and I hope in the future that they actually continue this mode, even though I don't think that the majority of the players are going to be really into this mode. It's really there for the marks like myself. We have my faction. I had mentioned that this kind of feels like where you would just end up throwing your money away. That's because for my experience, I used to play Magic the Gathering, and first and second edition were already out, so I was just trying to get caught up, have a good deck. It's gotten crazy, and I was able to get out like at 5th edition. But anybody who's gone through anything like that, any kind of collectible card game, be it Pokemon, be it Yu-Gi-Oh, knows what this does to your wallet. So for myself, it's not for me. I like to try to keep some of my money. I already spent enough on this game. But for others, I just say, be careful if you have any kids that are really into that collectible card game scene, because this will be picking your wallet. So, like I said, I've avoided my faction, so we can go into the next mode here. We have my GM. This one's actually pretty interesting. The reason being is like you pick a journal manager that you want to have. They already have presets, and they have like these special function. They keep using the word cards in here, but it's like what you would use to like activate like a unique ability, as it were. You do that here with your GM, and then you also have like the show that you're picking, and you also have a special card or ability for that particular show. And they have NXT, NXT UK, Raw, SmackDown. In that mode, what you would do is the draft, pick your characters, and then you go to battle trying to win ratings. And by the end, of course, you want to be on top, be in first place. When you do the booking of the matches, you can set up feuds, and you have like a budget that you have to maintain. On paper, it sounds like it would be kind of boring. However, like for a person like me, it's actually kind of fun. You don't actually have to watch all the matches play out. You can actually simulate them and then go week to week, and it could be a lot of fun depending on how deeply you want to dive into it. And then we have universe mode, where I would have the different wrestlers on here, run the feed, then I could just make up my own stuff and just entertain myself with whatever I want to do with that. I do want to say I did not play this game online against anyone. Generally, I don't play online with people that I don't know. Anybody with a bunch of kids will understand, if you have a spouse, you have kids, when you have time to play, it's limited. You don't want to be dealing with a hassle with somebody online. You just want to get in and have fun. For all the faults that I mentioned, I want to make clear that this game is actually a recommend from me. Be it the load times and all the other things that I talked about. The presentation of the game is actually really good. It looks pretty close to broadcast. The crowds look like people, and they aren't distracting like the cardboard cutouts that we had for people that repeat every 4 to 5 people like back in the day. The reversal system, I understand people either love or hate this, but I actually enjoy it. Although once you get used to the button prompts, it can make the game feel like it's too easy, but I say that's what the difficulty settings are for. So if you think it's too easy, up the difficulty, so it'll give you more of a challenge that way if you need it. There's also a large variety of moves to execute, so that a match can avoid becoming stale by seeing the same 5 moves of doom. But because of the large set of moves that you can do, I think this may actually discourage some people from diving into the creating a moveset option, because you can get lost in there for an hour or more picking through the different moves for the various situations a move can actually be used, and you're not really necessarily understanding the situations that you're actually using them in. So you may have to be going back and forth to tweak your wrestler's moveset as you're going on. There's also a large roster to pick from, which is great. But if anybody is missing, that's what the create tools are for. And you can always go and download a bunch of different wrestlers that are online. There's a lot of skilled people out there that are putting up characters that you wouldn't believe. And the other thing that you can do is you can import image files into the game. So be careful with that. Don't get yourself into trouble by putting in some things that you should not have in there. But I used it myself to go ahead and see if I could get my face mapped into a character. And it took a few different tries, because if you're not paying attention, you can end up with skin tone that just looks really off. And so it's something that you'll have to work with. And it's once you have it in there, it can look really weird. Weird in a way that makes like your family members walk in and go, "Oh, what? How did that happen? How do you get your face up on that character?" It's just it's a little creepy. How did that happen? That was my daughter's reaction. I thought it was funny. All right, and aside from all the things that I went over, there are a couple things that are missing for me that maybe next year they might get it. I doubt it, but it could be on the wish list. But these are features that I haven't seen since like back on the Xbox 360 days, and that would be the creative finisher that I had mentioned, and the other option is to include custom music. It was really good to have that option when you're playing a wrestling game. If you have your own custom music like I did, I would like to be able to import that into the game instead of having to use some other superstars music or some of the generic music they have in here. Some of it's good-ish. Some of it's just really bad, but it's just nice to have the option to be able to do that. But I'll say, if you like wrestling and like the older N64 and WWF SmackDown Here Comes the Pain game, it's like they mashed them together and came out with this game, and I'm enjoying it. So that's pretty much it for this review. There are a few other video projects I also have coming down the pike here that I had mentioned in a previous video. That's going to be just about it here. Leave a comment about what you think of WWE 2K22. Have you tried it? Did you have any questions, or did you run into those weird bugs that are glitches? Just let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll check you out on next time on the next video. Have a good one.